r/AskReddit. What does your job ask you to hide from the customers? Also, at the hotel I worked at, if a guest found a stray bed bug, all staff were instructed to neither confirm nor deny that it was an actual bed bug. Word games were not fun. I experienced that firsthand. Went to a convention that was infested with cockroaches. Collected a few in a cup and went to the front desk to complain. They reassured me that what I saw was just harmless water bugs and that there were no roaches anywhere in the hotel. None. Zero. Nada. Had to ask them if they'd be fine with me releasing these harmless bugs in the lobby, and the moment I said that they froze and realized there was nothing they could say or do. My last job was a white labeled help desk. You had to hide the fact that your company existed at all from the customer. You had to pretend you were from whatever company the customer was using for their IT. I worked for a monitoring center, and that's what we did. Instead of saying, "This is Avant good," we had to use the name of the company. We monitored for medical buttons, like "I've fallen and I can't get up." Alert 1, response a link, Life Protect, EMC security company, etc. Security systems for homes and businesses, and fire alarms. The thing that made it the most frustrating was when they were doing something wrong on their end and we couldn't just straight up tell them what was wrong. Like they would press their button to hang up, but it just calls back into us again, and we have to be like, "Okay, I'm going to disconnect, you don't have to do anything," while they are screaming that we keep calling them, when it would be so much easier to just say, "We can't call you. The only way we can get in contact with you is if you press your button. So stop pressing it unless it's an emergency." That company was awful to work for. Edit. Also, we weren't allowed to tell them that we were understaffed or that we were really busy. I worked at a wraps store on a military base. When packages came back to use for whatever reason, we always told UPS that we donate the contents to on-base thrift store. We'd keep office supply stuff, but that never happened. One cat packaged all his belongings at our store and shipped them prior to leaving for deployment. This was at the start of the Afghan war. He didn't check his shipping label right, and about 3 weeks after it shipped it came back to us as denied/RTS. We held it for a few months, expecting him to come back. After waiting, my boss told me to open it up and take whatever I wanted out of it, trash everything else. So, I opened it, and it was like a dream come true. Every gaming system, stacks of games, expensive watches, all sorts of good shit. It didn't feel right. Went in on my day off after hours, looked more inside the box. Found a small address book with numbers. Got in contact with his parents and explained who I was, how I got their numbers, etc, etc. Ended up generating a label that night for it and shipped all this guy's stuff out on the store's dime. Boss was pissed as hell with me for doing that. As a tattoo artist, oftentimes apprentices at the end of their apprenticeship will start to tattoo paying customers, walk-ins, and for a few tattoo shops, the apprenticeships are much shorter than they need to be. So if you're getting tattooed but someone who seems to be young, or they seem inexperienced, they probably are, and they're probably still in their apprenticeship, but the shop will tell you they're actual artists. Do your research when thinking about getting a tattoo, and don't be afraid to wait months, or even years, for the right artist for you. It'll save you from really shitty tattoo. I think this might have happened to me. Went into a shop with a good idea of what I wanted, and was prepared to wait to get it. Surprise to me when they said they'd get me in same day. It looked fine that day and a few months after, but slowly became obvious that they didn't go deep enough in some places and had shaky hands on others. Good news is about 1.5 years after the initial tattoo I went back to the shop and asked for the artist, who was still working there. He seemed embarrassed and touched it up with no charge. I tipped him good, and it looks much better. Still love my tattoo. I've worked at 2 fast food restaurants in my life. At each one, the only time that food safety protocol was followed or enforced was the day that the health inspector was coming to grade us. Edit. I should also note that both stores received 100% every time the health inspector came. Edit 2. Obviously every restaurant is different. It all comes down to management. The stores I worked at were all about getting food out the door as fast as possible, with the smallest number of people working as possible. that leads to cutting corners. Not all restaurants, even fast food, are like that though. My point in posting was that even though they appear clean or have a high score posted for their health inspection, that doesn't mean they're following all of the guidelines set in place for them. MD in pathology, we are the ones who give the bottom line diagnosis and staging for most cancers and many other diseases. In a weird way, the patient isn't our customer, their doctor is. We are telling them what the diagnosis is and what evidence we have to support it. Anything we say can trigger them to do a whole new treatment plan or a bunch more tests, so we have to be careful not to mention random things that we see unless we want them acting in it. For example, we might think back, quote, these megakaryocytes are a little small and I see a few of them bunched together here, but it's only in a couple spots. If we bring it up, it might seem more significant than that and trigger a distracting question about one disease process when we know that's not the actual problem. A big part of the training is learning how to communicate the truth without clouding it with the truth. Unfortunately, this often means that the reports are almost unintelligible to the patients because they are not the intended audience of the report really. We sell software and we have a page that has instructions for setting it up Linux servers, but that's basically all we know about the OS and as much as any of us actually care to learn it. If asked, the going policy is that our Linux specialist is out this week, but we'll totally refresh what we know by going over the page with you. Cell phone store. Customers returned perfectly good phones all the time. We were told to sell the boxes as brand new first time activations and purposefully leave out the fact that they had, in fact, already been activated and taken home within 48 hours. I'd be pissed if I bought a phone full price and it was even slightly used. I'll let those phones get dusty and would never sell them just to spite that shitty ass policy. I used to work at one too, and we also did that as well. I think the one thing that annoyed me the most was the push to sell the accessories just cause it was on a daily basis. I understand the need to sell accessories, but what I didn't understand was the need to sell accessories that do not fit the phones. Like, is it that hard to find accessories that actually fit the phones to their exact model? For example, if you wanted a screen protector, it was either gonna fall short around the edges or be too big where we had to cut it so it would fit. It was worse for tempered glass cause it was more expensive. I loathed every time I had to sell one. If I didn't, I would get in trouble and get scolded for not hustling enough. I worked at a small town store, so I knew a good chunk of people and felt terrible selling them. I only sold them whenever managers were present. Otherwise I'd just tell customers to order off of Amazon. Screw that place. You'd be amazed at how good construction workers become at hiding flaws. It's quite nearly a part of the job description and a large reason why so much of construction effort is put towards cosmetics, beyond the fact that most people just don't want to be looking at a bunch of rough-in work that's functionally the same but aesthetically atrocious. I concur. I was a finisher for some years. Painting, staining. So in other words, making your brand new piece of shit house that you paid way too much for look nice. Amazing how many homeowners get duped or just plainly have idea what they are doing or agreeing to. I work in a deli and bakery currently. All of our food is from frozen and they want me to call in fresh baked and store every day. Dude, it was frozen for 3 months, thawed for an hour and then cooked. It's no better than anything else you get from the freezer section, and in many cases the freezer section is higher quality stuff. Our sales prices are just normal prices. Had to stock some pressure washers a few months back. They're $199 each when scanned. The next day I have to put up more, scan them, and they show up as $279 each. Couple weeks later they're on sale for $199 each. Not now, but back when I worked as an aide at a nursing home, we were forbidden from telling patients we were short-staffed. We were, and it was the fault of administration because they were trying to save money, but literally the residents would be yelling at us because their shower was late or whatever, and we were supposed to just act like it was because we were lazy. Weren't allowed to tell them it was because I had the entire wing by myself. The administrator was sick of having angry family members calling to complain and decided we should take the brunt of it instead. Have some of the same issues at my job. As a CNA, I'm able to explain to them that we are doing our best and that I'm sorry for the delay, but on days when we are understaffed by more than 2 people, I tell them there's no other way to get them to understand. But at my job it's got the opposite effect. It makes the admin keep us properly staffed for the most part. Best of luck. Being an aide is like no other job out there. I'm a pharmacist for a major chain. We were recently told this from our district manager because we kept getting reviews complaining about longer wait times and that we needed more help. Apparently telling patients that filling their scripts would take longer because I was the only one working that day is a big no-no. I work at a package store, liquor store for all you non-New Englanders, with a pretty big wine cellar. It's pretty cool, but we can't go down there alone because it's absolutely chock full of snakes. They're only garter snakes, and the reason they've let it continue like this is BC they're keeping the mice population at bay. We have the buddy system rule. BC our managers are terrified someone's gonna get bit one day, but for the most part they leave us alone. Restaurant employee here. Staff is almost always sick because we get in huge trouble if we take a sick day. Not uncommon to have service or food expediters throwing up while at work. Strep throat, colds, other contagious illnesses are always going around the workplace. Mice. We have mice. All my past food service jobs have had mice. Assume any restaurant you eat at has a mouse problem. Any and every unique location to commit a crime you will get away with that first time. We don't get the funds to have real cameras over the entire mall, so we move them to blind spots where we suspect, based on following other footage, the crime was committed. Then we wait for your stupid ass to go, "Wow, that was easy and nothing happened," and go for round 2. I've talked with peers in Target, Walmart, all over the place, and this is a constant. While there are certain high-risk zones that always have functional cameras aimed at them, if you wander off to an odd corner, odds that you'll get away with it #1 are really good, provided you dodge the employees at the time too. Oh, and along the same vein, park your stupid fucking car at a different parking lot than you're robbing. This is how we get you. Your license plate. You don't even need a mask or a hoodie. Odds are we will never figure out who you are if you just straight up walk out with shit and off the property. So years ago I was involved in developing and deploying a system for a chain of jewelry stores. They offer a guarantee that they will buy back your piece for whatever you paid for it. This makes sense because jewelry doesn't really lose value and you're not taking inflation into account. Also, most people don't return their jewelry. Long story short, they go live, and the very first day we get a ticket because the customer bought a ring for $5,000, but the certificate of value printed out that it was worth only $4,000. We dig into the database and the code, and sure enough, the database says $4,000. The cert is correct. The problem was with the salesperson. He should have overridden the value with the actual sales value. Anyway, the lesson learned is that even if you get a 25% discount on jewelry, you're not even starting to cut into their profits. Your fancy catered event? That's tap water. Bonus if your event is done by a company based in a university, because your food is probably the same food that is being served in the cafeteria. From working at various ICE, they all like to hide the same information. We lose money or break even on TV, HBO/Showtime etc. profitable, which is why we try and sell it to you. We used to make money on TV and we may make money on 1 or 2 packages, but most TV is sold at price or under price because channels just demand that much money. We pay between $15 $35 in bulk for our set-top boxes. Yes, those boxes we charge you $99 a month to rent and $100 to replace if you don't return them. STBs are pure profit and we will reuse them at an average of 5 customers' houses during their lifetime. Asterisk DOES not apply to DirecTV, which pays $60 $80 bulk and charges $200. Depending on the company, we are trying to sell you something at all times because it means extra money in our pocket / automatic termination if we don't sell people enough add-ons. The call center environment has a turnover rate only matched by World War I infantry combat casualty rates, and it's often worse. So the people you're talking to tend not to be knowledgeable because such people either burn out, get promoted, or they are in sales. There are parts of any city or area we don't care about. We are not sorry to see you go, we are happy because it means no more calls from the 1950s infrastructure that dies every week, which we won't replace because it will be a $2 million investment for 6 people at the end of a 4-mile long country road. We want you to leave so we can remove that street from our service area. No matter how bad you think your ISP may treat you, we will never be as bad as CenturyLink, who claims you don't exist. Our emotions and how we really feel about you. I answer 911 calls. You have no idea how many calls I take where I'm keeping someone on mute so they can't hear me while talking hella shit about them. The affluent a-hole who dialed 911 because a homeless person is sleeping in the park, and that's against the rules. Dude, it's 0330. Why are you walking through the park? That girl who wants us to arrest her boyfriend because he called her a slut. No threats, no physical violence, just getting called a slut. The family who was freaking out because there were coyotes in their front yard and they snapped at one of their kids when they went out to pet them. No one was bit, just a nice warning snap. Cats in trees, turkeys in trees, spilled apple juice at a Denny's. Share your experience or story in the comments section below. If you have a suggestion for our next video, also leave a comment. Don't forget to share the video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more funny, scary, or interesting top posts on Reddit. Thanks for watching. Until next time, peace out.